to Intersolar India and moderator of this webinar. I am joined by Mr. Devi Prasad Das, who is the Executive Director at ESA as the co-moderator. And this webinar is brought to you by TSE Webinar India and Intersolar India. And as I told you, the Indian Energy Storage Alliance is co-partnering this webinar. And Indian Energy Alliance, as you know, is the premier alliance to focus on the advancement of energy storage and e-mobility technologies and adoption in India. It has set of visions to make India not just a market, but a global hub for R&D and manufacturing of advanced energy storage and EV systems by 2022. As far as solar promotion is concerned, and MMI, the joint organizers of Smarter E-India, and this event, as you know, is a platform for promoting the converging industries of solar, electrical energy storage, and EV. So at the outset, I would like to inform you that we are all connected to the home broadband, and as you know, we are all under stress, and there is a possibility of someone of us dropping off even while we are speaking. And I would request for your cooperation, and we will try to get connected as early as possible. So we are also delighted that we had a great response to this. Over 1,500 participants have registered for the webinar, and it's a clear indicator of the importance that you all assign to this subject. We have with us today 5 distinguished speakers who represent different segments of this particular rooftop and electrical energy storage and policy formation and multilateral agencies. So we have with us Dr. Valavalkar, who is the president of Indian Energy Storage Alliance and MD, Customized Energy Solutions, Mr. Shaji John, whom you are seeing right now. He heads the solar business L&T, Ms. Mani Khurana, who is the senior energy specialist in World Bank, Mr. Rahul Dasari, director and CEO, Sunshot Technologies, and Dr. Rashi Gupta, Managing Director of Vision Mechatronics. The speakers will make the presentations in about 10 minutes, and at the end of the presentations, which will conclude in about 45 minutes, 50 minutes from now, we will have a short discussion based on the presentations made. Maybe it will be for about 20-25 minutes, and after that, we will try to take questions from the participants. So Debbie will pick up because last time we saw that there were hundreds of questions. Debbie will be screening those questions and picking up those questions which would be more interesting and which will provide even greater insights. And he along with Mohsin will bring the participant online, and they will be able to pose their question to the respective speakers. So we will also have to elicit the participants' perspective, which is equally very important. We will have some poll questions which will be flashed onto your screen. And you will have about 30 seconds to respond to them, and immediately afterwards the responses will be flashed, and then we will have a short discussion before we will go on to the next speaker. So before we begin the presentation session, I would like to briefly delve on how the batteries place in PV system has evolved. Just give me a couple of minutes. As you know, the earliest PV systems were all off-grid, and because of their astronomical price, only remote applications like the microwave repeater station atop hills, lighthouses in remote islands were quite common. And in addition to that, of course, we had the government making the decision to supply at a very subsidized rate, very low power consuming gadgets like CFL lamps and maybe a small fan. So that provided the market for the nascent Indian industry. But common to all these applications, as you know, was the batteries. And in the early stage, the modules were having cells which were having very, very small diameter, and the thickness also was quite high. And then they were all, because as you know, the capacity also was pretty small, a tiny, tiny fraction of what we have today. So the quality inspections at the stage of processing, at the end stage, were all so rigorous, and the modules really were of high quality. So it was taken for granted that modules perform well, and then it was a common belief that if nothing can happen to the modules, that was the common understanding. And while module was well established, and most of these systems with batteries, whenever they failed, it was traced to the failure of batteries. Though battery was not the culprit, it was the absence of maintenance and the unreliable relay-based charge controllers which were used at that point in time. So batteries were considered the weak link. So even though, I mean, as you know that even as late as the turn of the century, we still continued with the lead acid batteries, and if at all there were any improvements, it was all minor. I mean, it was made maintenance-free gel battery and all came, but then lead acid batteries ruled the roost. But then the real change in transition towards renewable took place in 2010, and you know that it became very clear that no longer was clean energy was an option. I mean, option, but it was a compulsion. So slowly, we also had to look at electric vehicles in all seriousness. So when renewable energy started getting integrated more and more, as you know, the grid balancing issues came up, and other quality issues also cropped up, and it became inevitable that electrical energy storage will have to be brought in. So, you know what has happened in the last 10 years? I mean, the battery technology, which was considered ancient, very primitive, all of a sudden took a front stage, and the developments over the 10 years has been phenomenal. So nothing can perhaps sum up the importance of electrical storage now than the featured article by the World Bank just a little less than a year ago, when they said, where in that article, with the title, four things you should know about battery storage. And the first among the four things, is no prize for guessing. Energy storage is key to realizing the potential of clean energy. So the transformation of batteries from being the weakest link and the most undesired component to being the powerful enabler to the clean energy and mobility transition is nothing short of the metamorphosis that butterfly undergoes. So we have the developments in the energy storage is really, really terrifying. I mean, terrific. And then the whole world looks at developments in energy storage and how it will enable the future of clean, and a future which is clean and which is sustainable. So we have now enough time to listen to all of our experts and get their perspectives on how this energy transition technology, what is the current trend, and how the energy storage is going to help us in our transition. So with that remark, I now invite Dr. Rahul Valavalkar to to speak on the subject. He's, as you know, he's very well known in the battery circle, and then now he is very well known in the renewable sector as such. So he is the president and MD of Customized Energy Solutions India Private Limited and the founder of India Energy Storage Alliance. He is a strong votary of improving energy storage and e-mobility in India. He has won many awards and recognitions for his contributions and is a member in many government committees. And his credentials are outstanding. He holds a PhD in engineering and public policy from the Carnegie Mellon University and Masters in Energy Management from NYIT. So it's over to you, Dr. Rahul. We look forward to hearing your presentation and your insights.
Thank you very much, Ravi. And first of all, I'd like to thank Intersolar India and Smartery team for partnering with IESA and bringing focus to solar plus energy storage, which I believe at the end of the webinar, all of us will be able to convince you that this is a transition which is already started happening. So to start with, as Ravi mentioned, I would like to just give a quick background. India Energy Storage Alliance was founded in 2012 by Customized Energy Solutions to bring awareness about advances in energy storage, microgrids, and e-mobility, and how these technologies can be transformative for changing Indian electric grid as well as transportation sector. Since then, we have upgraded our mission. We have made our mission that we would like to make India not just a global market, but leader in R&D, manufacturing, and adoption of these advanced technologies by 2022. And we are fortunate that number of Indian as well as international agencies have chosen to partner with us, and through that and close to 100 member strong alliance, we have been able to make steady progress in advancing policy framework in India over last 8 years. So to just give a quick recap, some of the developments, although you are hearing more now, but most of these activities started back in 2013, where after the major blackout, there were committees made by Ministry of Power and CEA. They created a task force where they realized that to accommodate a large amount of renewables, we cannot just take the grid as a standard. We need to evolve the grid and also the control systems, as well as look at new solutions. So there was a committee which was formed by MOP and CA, where I was part of the committee to look at large-scale renewable adoption. And since then, MNRE actually created a standing committee on energy storage under the leadership of Dr. Satish Agnihotri, who was then Secretary MNRE. And over the years, MNRE ended up developing a roadmap for energy storage, then started exploring pilots. And starting 2015, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission also started to take specific steps in opening up or creating a roadmap for ancillary services. Then in 2017, they created a specific staff paper on looking at policy changes which are required for integrating energy storage in the grid. In 2018, MNRE released the National Wind Solar Hybrid Policy, and CERC also took necessary steps to address the regulations related to this. And in 2019, both CERC and CEA made changes to a number of regulations where now energy storage is also considered as a separate specific asset in the grid. And the biggest sort of a positive step was announcement by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2019 or end of 2018, where he actually announced creation of the National Energy Storage Mission. And since then, in March 2019, this National Energy Storage Mission, where I was one of the principal authors, has been integrated with Niti Aayog's National Mission for Transformative Mobility. And there is also a strong focus being brought in on manufacturing. So since the topic of today's discussion is more about solar plus storage, I would like to share about some of the trends which have happened in the world. And you can see left-hand side bottom, I have put in a map by US Department of Energy. Again, this is not a comprehensive map, so there will be storage projects which are missing here. But you can see that just from the data which is compiled by US Department of Energy, energy storage is no longer concentrated in just one or two countries. Energy storage as a market is present everywhere. And especially in last 2 years, if you notice, there have been range of projects where energy storage has been getting integrated with renewable energy, particularly with solar. The energy storage deployment in US started in around 2012 with initial projects being focusing just on providing ancillary services like frequency regulation, and number of projects were done with energy storage systems of 30 minutes for achieving this. But in last few years, we are seeing a large amount of projects where people are integrating even 4 to 6 hours of energy storage and providing renewables as a dispatchable power. And number of times people do get confused about this, because people are used to just looking at marginal cost of energy storage, and they say, okay, that is more than 8 rupees. So how can you have solar plus storage? People tend to just assume that, oh, okay, if solar is 3 rupees and storage is 8 rupees, that means you have to supply power at 11 rupees, and that is not economical. So storage cannot be integrated with solar. But here is a nice chart done by Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, which shows how with different size of energy storage integration, you can have different levelized cost. And on the left hand side, I have listed few of the prominent projects which have been game changers in this area. Maybe one of the first projects was AES, where they signed a PPA for solar plus storage at around 8 rupees per kilowatt hour in January 2017. Whereas NextEra actually ended up signing another project in 2017 itself for under 4 rupees. And the reason for that was they were looking at around 10% of energy storage, whereas in case of AES, they were looking at more than 50% of energy to be stored in with the batteries. But now we expect going forward, solar plus storage prices will start getting lower than 4 rupees within next 5 years. And here is a trajectory which we have estimated. And as I mentioned, the amount of energy which is getting stored in batteries will have an impact on the levelized cost. So that's where we have created two trajectories. The bottom trajectory is if you are including storage only for 1 hour, and the top trajectory is for if you are including storage for 4 hours. As you can see, there is already one recent tender from Solar Energy Corporation of India, where they got bids for 1200 megawatt of wind plus solar plus plus storage. And there with pumped hydro, they have got a price quote of 4 rupee 4 paise, whereas with batteries, they have received a quote of 4 rupee 30 paise for delivery in 2022. So in fact, the actual numbers are somewhere a little bit more aggressive than the projections which we have given. Obviously, as most of you who are experts on solar and renewables understand, that the location specific availability of the solar or wind energy may actually change these prices. So we have taken certain standard assumptions on price trajectory of solar, and then added the projections of battery cost reduction for coming up with trajectory. If you have a better location where your solar or wind price itself is lower, then obviously you can achieve better price trajectory than this. The other part is from 2018-19, there have been more than 15 tenders involving storage are released, and we expect starting now, post COVID-19 lockdown, we are going to see many more projects in 2020 and 2021, which will in fact end up becoming a new normal for renewable project bidding in India. So to conclude, over last 5 years, the policy framework for energy storage has evolved steadily. Energy storage sector is seeing a similar cost reduction curve as exhibited by solar industry. So depending on different experts, the cost trajectory is anywhere from 10 to 13% year-on-year cost reduction. In fact, at a cell level, the cost reductions are even happening bigger. And if we can get the domestic manufacturing and complete localization ecosystem established within next 2 years, then we can actually see some additional opportunities for cost reduction. What is important is when you are choosing a storage project, it is very important that you also understand the technology as well as application specific requirement, because it's not that there is just a one silver bullet which will fit all. You have range of technology options which are available, and you can actually choose a right technology and size it appropriately based on various parameters. The cost reduction is not going to happen just because of scaling of manufacturing, but there are a lot of learning opportunities in system integration and deployment and operational optimization. So in India, we see sometimes tendency amongst policymakers or even customers where they just want to sit idle and wait for prices to come down. But ultimately, the cost cost of the equipment cost of the project could be less than 50% in terms of the total cost of the project over the lifetime. So it is very important that you don't just end up waiting for cost reduction on the manufacturing side, but start actually getting experience on deployment and design, as well as operational optimization. Uh, RE plus storage around the world has already started replacing number of new peaker plants, but it is in fact even started to allow utilities or owners to shut down some of the old inefficient peaker plants which are already commissioned. And we anticipate that with this price trajectory, in fact, even the intermediate plants which are operating anywhere less than 10 hours per day will start getting replaced by such combination, especially if you can do wind, solar plus storage combinations. And as Ravi mentioned, we as IESA have set a vision to make India not just a market but global hub, and we'd love to get all of you involved in that. I just have one quick announcement. Day after tomorrow, we are hosting a special full day web conference with Earth Day Network to celebrate 50th year anniversary of Earth Day movement, which was started in on 22nd April 1970. So again, I hope most of you will be able to join us for that. If you need more information about that, you can visit indiaesa.info website. So that's it from me. I'll be happy to take any questions you may have during the Q&A session. And I hope all of you will get involved with IESA and be part of this transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Valavalkar. That was an excellent overview of the policies and the what the trend, the technology and market landscape currently we are seeing in India and elsewhere, and also the many suggestions you had made. So thank you very much, and thanks for sticking to the time, and also thanks for the invitation to join the celebration you are organizing on 22nd to celebrate the Earth Day. That's a great thing that we do, and yes, we have to do that. So next we move on, and Mohsen, you have this poll, or
yes.
okay, you may please post the poll question. And participants, please give your choice. Just pick the button which you think clearly conveys your choice, and we'll also get to know your perspective. Just 30 seconds, please.
Ravi, you would like to read the question for the audience?
Yeah, it is. What is the most important challenge for rooftop solar plus energy storage installation in India? Whether it is no suitable rooftop policy, no appropriate incentives by the government, cost of energy storage or battery is very high, and reluctance by C&I customers. So whatever is your option, please click that button. You're 30 now. About 15 seconds are left.
All right, so we close the poll here. Here we go with the results, and here is it.
Oh, yeah, again, the cost seems to be the deciding factor. Storage plus battery, as many as 61%. I'm sure Rahul is beaming, so he is in full agreement with that. So, no appropriate incentives. People are quite satisfied with the incentives. That is interesting. And no suitable rooftop policy. This is even more surprising that people seem to be quite okay with the rooftop policy. Reluctance by C&I, that means very less, 88%. So there is enormous interest among the C&I customers. Okay, great. Now let us move on to the next speaker. Sorry, I got distracted because my video was not on and I had a notice coming in. Anyway, let us now invite Mr. Shaji John. He started his solar journey in L&T way back in 2008. He set up the business, in fact. So under his leadership, L&T has executed as much as 2.5 gigawatt of solar projects so far. Some of these projects are very prestigious, and it includes Asia's largest solar thermal project of 125 megawatt in Rajasthan, largest single PPA project of 330 megawatt in Madhya Pradesh, and one of the world's largest rooftop project on a single roof. And the solar plus energy project, which we would be very interested to listen from him, which is 8 megawatt hour of storage in Andaman, etc. So he now heads the domestic and international RE business in L&T. So request Shaji to take over and share with us your abundant knowledge and experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi, and good morning to all of you. It is real pleasure to have met all of you over this virtual world technology. So let us just get into the subject. I think the subject which I was asked to cover was future of solar rooftop and energy storage with distributed generation. So obviously, I will be speaking more of future, not talk about what is going to happen in 3 or 6 months. So it will have a very long-term vision which I will be setting, which you people can go through it, and then we can discuss at the end of this session. So if you see this slide, you can see what we told on the right energy storage solution, which is the future of this renewable and distributed industry. This is the one which we have supplied to our Andaman project, which Ravi just mentioned. So personally, but though we have done more of utility scale solar and utility scale storage, but in my personal view, we are moving from a mega grid to smart microgrid position. Today, the world is running more on a mega grid where you have generation sources in far-fetched areas, whether it is thermal, nuclear, or hydel, how to transmit it over kilometers and kilometers, especially like country in India, and then consume it at places like where we live and where we work and where we produce things. So that being the case, we have already started seeing the movement towards what we call as smart microgrids. This is what I told, something very personal to me, that I believe that world will move from mega to smart microgrids to consume energy what he needs. So in that concept, smart microgrid, what I have depicted here is basically generate, store, share, and consume. So maybe you are well versed about generate and store and consume, but what is the sharing? Maybe in the coming slide, I will just touch upon that. What does it mean by sharing the power? So this is the concept where we believe the world will move to. And for that, the most important component of the smart microgrid will be the homes, because this is the largest consumer. If you see in the lockdown period also, when there was a time when our prime minister asked us to shut down for 9 minutes, you would have seen that substantial amount of power is being consumed by people like us. And so it becomes very critical that this load, the home, is managed very well locally. And hence what we will see in future is that each of the home will be a smart microgrid by itself, because it will have its own source of generation, which is like shown in this case, like solar panels. It will have its own battery storage. It will have its own loads, obviously, and it has its own controller which can mix and match the generation and the load. So this concept, when we speak, rooftops become very critical for promotion and important motion to this movement. And coming to the next point, which is the potential. When we are talking about homes, each of the homes, if you see, it has its own roof, or at least some vacant places closer to their homes, especially in the village area. So if you see the estimate done by some of the large organizations like MNRE, NREL and all, it appears that in India, there is almost like 352 gigawatts of rooftop solar capacity, which is almost equal to what India is today having generation capacity across various thermal, nuclear, hydel, and renewable sources. So rooftop alone can match up with that kind of energy requirement. In US, 1,118 gigawatt, and in Europe, 820 gigawatt. So this is the kind of potential this home and rooftops are providing. In India alone, if you see, after derating, almost like 124 gigawatt of solar rooftop can be produced. So having talked about this abundant source of energy source, one challenge which this source faces is the intermittency, which means that sun is not available 24/7, or even it is available also, it is not available in its full intensity. Then there are cloud movements which can disturb the generation. And hence it becomes very important that we should have another form of technology, which is in this case energy storage and batteries, that can balance the energy generation and feed the loads as required. So this is the reason why Ravi and Rahul has talked about energy storage a lot. This is very, very crucial, and in the coming slides, I will talk about more about it. Now, when it comes to integrating this generation and storing device, it will be very important that digitalization comes in picture. Each of these microgrids will start adopting digitalization, and especially like blockchain technologies will provide the platform in which houses which have solar can share the power with houses don't have solar. That is what in the previous slide I talked about sharing. Or in this case, if you see the picture which it is given, on the left hand side, the house has a solar and it is able to give back power to the community microgrid and earn some money back. And similarly, a house which doesn't have a solar but want to buy solar power from nearby houses can purchase it and pay the money to the seller. So this is the technology and concept which very soon we will be catching up on. On this, you can see that EV, in this case, EV right now is shown as only a consumer, but in the coming slide, we can talk about how the EV will become a source too. So having talked about solar rooftop, the energy storage and the integration of it through a microgrid, most important thing is that how this will happen. So obviously, like the poll which was conducted, and you could have seen that most of the people told about cost. And the second point was the enabling policy. So when it comes to enabling policy, these are the policies which we are expecting from the government to see and take care of the constraint which we are going to face in movement towards the microgrid. In this, I can talk two most important policies, which are net metering and time of the day. This will be most critical policy for future. Rest of the one which you are seeing on the bottom, the 6 of the support which we have written is mostly to enable the industry to grow. Having understood that cost will be prohibitive for some more time, at least in the near future for 1-2 years, to come and start beating the conventional power and renewable power with storage. So these are the enabling policies which will be needed for supporting the movement of the industry. Coming to some experience, very few experience I will quickly share, because future is one thing, but what is happening today also we should know. This one picture shows about how entire 256 villages across Bihar has been electrified with microgrid. It has enabled and it has benefited almost like 60,000 houses in the village. There were two technologies which were used. One was a microgrid, real microgrid, where you can see the picture here, where there's near the village there is a solar plant with battery storage, and it provides power to the near vicinity houses. And second concept was a standalone system. Each of the house was provided with a standalone system, which is a solar plus battery, and it feeds the entire load of that house. So this is the concept which we have started seeing in India already. Another experience is about the urban microgrid. This is a microgrid which we have in our L&T campus, which is a full-fledged high technology microgrid where multiple sources of generation is there: solar, micro winds, and a diesel set, and also it can synchronize and connect with the grid. So this kind of microgrids, which are more urban microgrids, we are going to see when smart cities in India will start picking up. That is the time when you will start seeing urban microgrids catching up. And this is something which is very futuristic. Rooftop, not just a plain vanilla rooftop, but a home which is smart with solar rooftop plus many other technologies like IoTs and internet and communication integrated into it, and it can start interacting between various equipments. And in this case, what we are going to see is that EV will be a source also, that EV can start selling power to the home and to the grid. This technology we believe will be catching up very soon in future. Coming to my last slide, we are going to see a disruption. But this is my personal belief that though solar is good enough today, but in future when each one of us start consuming more energy, because you know that especially in India, our energy consumption per capita is very low. when we start consuming more, we will need more highly energy intensive sources. The solar may not be good enough. We may have to switch to some other kind of technology, or at least add some more technology. So fuel cell is one which we are very, very upbeat. We have done few projects on fuel cell in India already. And in future, we believe that micro reactors, basically, which is running on small nuclear reactors, will be the future, and it can give unlimited, literally unlimited resources to any microgrids which it has to integrate. Thank you so much to hear me out.
So thank you very much, Shaji, for an excellent presentation.